Welcome, amazing top-producing agents, investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, February 13th. This is our pre-Valentine's Day call, and it's 2020. And this is Mastermind call number 265. I want to start by congratulating Aileen Smolenoff. Aileen was the winner of the week last week. She had two listings in the same week, and congratulations to her. And I want to encourage all of you to share your wins. Don't be shy, because believe me, it inspires a lot of other people on the call that are just getting started. And we do have a full queue, so we'll get to it pretty quickly. Chad, anything you want to add before we start?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, Thomas, anything you want to add, sir?
Just make sure you do your shopping for Valentine's Day.
Yes. What's the 36-year anniversary? I have no idea what that is, but I'll have to look that up later.
I'm pretty sure
a pencil. That sounds good to me.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Not anniversary. All right. Well, first up is a name dear to us. Jim Forsythe, you're up first.
Well, Chad, can you stand 3 Jims?
I don't know if I could keep up.
I got news for you. You can keep up with 10 Jims.
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, man. I was talking to Jim Sullivan yesterday and asked him to jump on here. I'd called him with a request that he hadn't gotten lately. And Chad's not really in favor of this, but I've got some new agents that I'm starting making phone calls for us, and I just need a general script I can give them just to say, hey, this is what you use to kind of get started. And so if anybody out there has got a script that's working good for them, a list of objections, that kind of thing, I'd like to have them get in touch with me and maybe put my hands on 1 or 2.
And so, Jim, are these people going to be, these are the folks that will actually be going on the appointments?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, you know how to send them to our role play archive, right?
Correct. I've been there. Toby sent me that a couple of days ago, and it's I tried to pull some stuff from there, but
because I mean, if they're going to be the ones on the appointment, the reason I ask, eventually they have to have the skill set to close, right? So
correct.
Scripting out a probate conversation is damn near impossible, because there's the offer that we're offering has there's so many variables just in that, but also in their situation. So the outbound probate script, you can find that in I believe it's in the resources. Okay, so you have that.
Right.
I mean, that's my best cut at it. Having thousands of these conversations, that's about the best I can do. Second to that, the best thing you can do is just say, listen, if I'm going to support you in this and pay for your marketing, I expect, that you go through at least 5 of these role play calls and be ready for a live role play with me next Wednesday. And just, that's quite honestly, I mean, that's how we train our ISAs. And other people who have built their own call centers, our subscribers, that's what they use to train their call centers. So, I mean, you joked in good spirit about me not liking scripts, but it's for good reason in this niche. And I don't hate scripts in every niche, just in probate. But I think, there is a really good simple script if you're just getting somebody to set the appointment. That's one thing. But when they actually have to go on that appointment, they need more information. So rather than teach them a script, I'd rather teach them the skill set. And the role play calls are the best thing we have for that.
Okay. And the one thing that I was looking for, too, is just like a lot of the objections that we get. I've got an attorney. He's handling everything for me. We don't need to sell. I've already got it. Somebody wanted to buy. I got a neighbor. Stuff like that, just where they can hit the objections, and so they get their feet wet.
And so we try to do our best to keyword things so it's searchable. If you go to alltheleads.com on the home page, in the top right, we have a global search bar. and you can put in the word
Right.
objection. And anywhere that objection has come up in our role play recaps, it'll bring those to the top. It'll kind of filter your results. So the best objection handling content we have is, it's spread throughout those role play calls because people come and hit us with the objections they're getting. So you can kind of shorten you can make it easier your search will be easier if you use that search bar and just put in objections. And then things like lightning strike is one of the buzzwords I've used to, when someone's just pissed off and wants to tell you you're an ambulance chaser. So you can search things like lightning strike, my attorney has it handled, we have it handled. Like just the common, if you hear an objection on the phone, go to that search bar, type it in. There's probably a piece of content, either one of the videos that I've done or a role play call where we've discussed it multiple times.
All right, that'll help a lot.
And Jim, one thing I shared with you for the benefit of everybody else on the call that, if the new people, if you or the new people feel like they need that security of something to say in front of them, print off that seller interview sheet because, if you get stuck, rather than go into a big long speech, just ask a question. There's enough questions there you can ask the person. If you can ask them a good question and get them talking, it may lead to a more genuine conversation, and you might not need the script as much.
Yeah. Right. Where did you tell me I find that seller interviews sheet, Jim?
It's under Fast Track Video 3.
Okay.
If you when you log into the subscriber portal, just click on Lesson 3, and when the video finishes, the attachments will show up underneath. So just fast forward all the way to the end of it, and it'll pop up.
Gotcha. Okay. It helps a bunch, guys, as always.
All right, buddy. Thanks for joining in and participating. Next up is another familiar name. Joyce, you're up next.
Good morning. It's Joyce Arnson Morris from Orange County, California.
Yes, ma'am.
I have in my latest supply of leads 2 leads that don't have an attorney, and I would like to share those with attorneys that I'm going to visit. And I'm just wondering, how many attorneys can I give those same 2 leads to without being unethical?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of ethics. Everybody has a fair chance of earning business. It's a matter of impact, right? So if you go give 1 lead to 10 attorneys and they all 10 call and are competing with each other and that they find out that's what you did, then it doesn't show well for you. I would, what I would try to do to raise the quality of your referral is make contact with the family, find out why they didn't hire an attorney, and then, highlight the need and that they should have an attorney, especially in your state, especially in your county. There's billions of dollars of failure stories. But, if you can convince them to say, yeah, okay, well, I guess you're right. Maybe we should talk to an attorney. Then you've got like a grade A referral, right? Versus here's a name and good luck, where that's not going to have much of an impact with the attorney. So I would say try to your best bet is to choose 2 attorneys that you want to connect with, qualify each of those leads, let them know that you're going to have an attorney call them, and then just give it to 1 and have him call directly. It's just going to be a much higher quality offering from you trying to build a relationship.
Oh, good. And my related question is, I want to try to co-market, as you've suggested, with an attorney. And I'm wondering, what is the vehicle that I create to do this co-marketing? So
one thing an idea we talk about often that's very useful to the family. Jim, I think there's an extra line unmuted.
I don't know how that keeps happening every week. When you all sign in, somebody is signing in as an administrator, and this time it's Jacques. Jacques, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect you. When you sign back in, use the code that ends in 69632, okay? I'm going to go ahead and disconnect them.
So Joyce,
right.
what I was saying, like the piece that we often talk about is if you sit down with a local attorney and literally list out every single thing that has to be done, legal and non-legal, throughout the entire probate process and even after the probate process, what should be done. And then you color the legal aspects one color and you color, the non-legal a different color. And then put the attorney's information in the footer of that. So you're co-branding that marketing piece. That allows them to, it's a loophole for the solicitation laws in their industry. So they're not allowed to mail that directly. But if you're mailing it on their behalf as presenting them as one of your trusted team members, you're not violating anything. So it's a good learning exercise. It's a great opportunity to sit down with an attorney in your market and get to know everything that a personal rep is facing. But they've got a big incentive, in California across the board, about 20% of families will initiate the process without an attorney. And at least 90% of those will get wrapped around the axle and eventually end up hiring an attorney and paying more money because he has to go clean up their mess. And you can, put one of those in every letter that you send out, even if they already have an attorney. It's probably it's useful. I doubt their attorney gave them that. But if they don't, it's kind of shocking to be like, whoa, I didn't realize I had to do all this stuff in red. And I don't know how to do that. So it becomes just kind of like the way we use the net sheet. Having a visual tool makes it real. And they're like, oh man, we might need help. And whether they call you or call the attorney, either way, that business is heading back in his direction. So he should be willing to sit down and, spend the 30 minutes to an hour to make the list. And then you can get that over to us and we'll turn it into a marketing, a letter or marketing piece for you.
And Joyce, I don't know if Chad will agree. It occurred to me if you're only going to give those leads to one attorney, attorneys like realtors, some of them prospect and some don't. I would get a commitment from them. I've got somebody that really needs an attorney. If I give you their number, would you be willing to call them? At least get a commitment if you're only going to give it to one that they're going to make the call. And then I probably would call him back in a week or so and hold him accountable, make sure he did. You know what I mean? And if he didn't, you can always give it to another one.
I completely agree with that.
That's great. So Chad, one on the list that I'm going to put in two colors. Where do I put the attorney's name? Out by the side of the legal things?
I would just do it in the footer.
Oh, in the footer. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you. I am moving forward with my attorneys.
And Joyce, it depends on, I actually like the idea of having it off to the side. Like you may do a vertical bar to the side of the legal aspects and just say our preferred partner, ABC Law Firm, 123 Pleasant Street, here's the phone number. It probably would be more impactful if it were like a sidebar alongside the legal parts of the checklist.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I'm appreciating you guys as always.
And same here, Joyce. Appreciate you participating. All right, next up is phone number ending in 6658. You're up next.
Okay, great. Hey, this is Bill in North Carolina. I'm a master graduate in New
Hello?
Bill, if you can hear us, you cut out after master graduate.
Yeah, Bill, if you're on the call, you dropped out of the queue. I don't know what happened there, but hit *6 and hit 1 again. I'll give you a second to do that, and then I'll take you next. Not sure what happened, but we lost him. The queue dropped him. Are you there, Bill? Hang on a minute. I think I found you. We have a William here. Maybe that's... hang on.
I think you said 6568.
Yeah, the phone number's not showing. I do have a Bill here. No, this is William Gross. William, you're up next. The other Bill, sorry about that. Hit *6 and hit 1, and we'll take you next. How you doing, William?
I'm doing great. Bill, William's the legal name. And I've been on, I have to tell you, I'm really just calling to thank you guys. I started with all the leads March researching, and I took the master class and really dedicated myself. I've been in business for a long time, but I was mostly in management and recruiting most of the last 8 years, and really started my own book of business from scratch almost a year ago in April. And I don't know what the running is for the highlight of the week. Last week I put 4 deals in the escrow, and then Monday I represented a buyer in probate court, and we overdid and won a $1.365 million property that's in escrow and set to close in 10 days. So I've had a great run here, and I have more closing pending this year than any year I ever had as an agent. And I really just, it's all been all the leads process. I use your brochure every day. I just got the website. It's kind of ready to launch out with the website. I use I listen to every one of the calls on YouTube. I don't get them live. In fact, the only reason I'm not on them live is my lead generation. I go to court every day. When I was in Probate Mastery, Chad suggested I go there to learn the business and become an expert. And my lead generation is I go to court every day. I'm here at 7:45. I have a cup of coffee. I meet investors, attorneys, pro-pers, and I'm usually here till 10:30 doing that. So I usually can't get on the call or get in the queue. But I really just want to call and thank you guys. It's hard work. You know, I dedicate myself to this every day for the last 8-9 months, but it's just paying off in spades, and it's been a fantastic experience.
That's
wow,
awesome.
that's great.
Thank you for sharing, Bill. Like if you guys haven't, find Bill Gross, Gross, on LinkedIn. He does a great job kind of documenting his experience in blog, like LinkedIn blog posts. And I really enjoyed watching you grow into this, and it's no surprise why you're doing so well. I mean, your level of diligence is much higher than most, and you got a good result from that, right?
Yeah, and
so,
I think what my LinkedIn's really been, I'm preparing to kind of create my own blog content and do some video stuff, so I've been using it to get some feedback. But, you know, and also I really enjoy the community a lot. I go to the Facebook Probate Mastery group regularly and share there, and I'm with EXP. We have a probate group there that, you know, we talk about what goes on here as well. So definitely I really appreciate the community of agents all around the country and hearing how they solve problems and working with their solutions as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for being part of that and contributing as much as you do. I see your stuff all the time.
Thanks.
And Bill, with 4 deals in a week, I think you do have a really good chance to get the winner of the week. But Chad, we're down to 4 in the queue. So, yeah, do you want to pick his brain a little bit? I think we do have time. We have 4 in the queue now. And to the other Bill, I think his phone must have gone dead. If you come back, Bill number 2, just hit *6 and hit 1, and we'll move you to the top of the queue. So go ahead, Chad. You were going to ask some questions.
Yeah. So Bill, having been at this for almost a year now, tell us, walk us through the timeline. How long did it take you to build momentum and get that first deal? And then when that happened, what was the pace like? I mean, you're obviously on a good pace now. 4 in a week is not too bad. I mean, you can do better, but anyways, just for folks who are trying to set proper expectations for this in their own business, share with us how this ramped up and where you think it's headed for you.
Well, I actually there's so many people ask me now. I actually host a small conference call weekly and describe kind of my process. And I'll just say I took your Probate Mastery. I can't remember if it was March or April. I want to say it was March. And I actually got a deal right out of the gate because what I would describe your training is it's all about your come from. Where do you come from when you relate to a prospect? Do I come from looking for a commission check, or do I come from being a service? And one day during the training, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday, I happened to talk to a past client who was an attorney who mentioned he had a client who had a problem. And I'd really taken your training to heart. And I said, hey, I'm glad to help you with the problem. When we talked to her, I called her on the phone. She was a widow. She was married 53 years. Her husband passed. He managed his rental property. She had some questions. And I said, hey, let me just come by and meet you. Hop in my car. It's an hour drive. But met with her. Nice lady. Walked around for an hour. She had a question with the title and the fence. And after just listening to her for half an hour and thinking to myself, wow, how sad. She lost her husband. And she's obviously lost. She turned to me and said, can you just sell the house for me? And so my listing presentation was, yeah, I'm sure I can. And I did that. So really, I got my first listing within, a day or two of Probate Mastery. And then that closed, 45 or 60 days, and I brought her the check. And it was a $500,000 plus proceeds check. She was so happy. And she looked at it and said, I've always wanted to live with my sister in Phoenix. Do you think you can help me sell this house, which was her residence? And so I closed those two deals right out of the gate. It had nothing to do with the probate training, other than it had everything to do with the attitude of looking for people with problems and being the resource to solve them, being willing to take on the work. I prospected, with the data and called homeowners, personal reps. I got my first listing and sold it and got paid, I want to say maybe 5-6 months from day one to check. And then day two, check two from that might be, let's say from April to maybe, that's going to close here in March. It might be 11 months. But I also listed 15 properties with the survivorship that I made at the courthouse. And I also have sold a couple of brought some buyers into probate court because I know the process now. I'm an expert. I really thought to be the expert in LA County probate specifically. I can't be an expert in the law. I'm not an attorney, but I can be an expert in the procedures and the data and the process. And so to answer your question, I would say, I got a deal or two out of my lead generation just by changing my attitude, and that helped pay some bills until I started probate. And the probate, I wasn't the fastest at it. I'm not the most aggressive salesperson, but just the first 12 months, I probably closed and got paid on 4 deals already, plus 2 more. Let's say 6 deals total.
Okay.
So I'm an experienced agent. I know the business. I know the process. I know sales. I just didn't know probate at all. But I have like another 14, 15 pending scheduled close in the next 90 days.
Wow,
well, that's great. So you're on pace for what, 3 to 4 closings a month, pretty consistently as you move forward.
Please God, that's what I'm looking towards. Yeah, that's what I'm looking towards. I have to keep it going. I have to keep the process. And so the reason why I don't jump on the call live normally, to be honest, is I'm at court, and that's my prospecting time. I'm really focused on. And now what happens is I meet attorneys who literally once a week somebody walks up to me and says, I see you all the time. And I see you in court. What do you do? Or I get attorneys who walk up and ask me questions because they saw me on another matter. So it's starting to snowball in that regard, and just beginning that. But yeah, I have to keep on it, though. I'm not slowing down, and I have to make sure I don't get caught up in paperwork and administrative tasks, and accumulate good vendors to take care of the problems. Because I have, yesterday I went down to do the eviction of my client because, he got me into this really great law firm. He was a pro per who, during the course of probate, decided to hire an attorney. He picked like the best probate firm in LA, and so of course I need him to be my champion. So I referred him to the unlawful retainer law firm company, and I was walking through the whole process, and I met him at the house yesterday when we got control of the property, and then I can call the attorney and say I did all that, and he's calling her saying how helpful I am. So I'm really diligent to keep pressing on the lead generation and keep building my business.
So just so everybody else tracks with the conversation, the pro pers are the ones we were just talking about with Joyce that chose not to have an attorney. And I think it's called pro se while they're the petitioner and pro per when they're appointed. Is that right, Bill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
So of those, I'm really curious, having the experience, you having the experience sitting there in the courtroom, how many of those from week to week, the ones that are pro per, or the first time you meet them, what would you say as a percentage? How many of them ultimately engage with an attorney because they realize they do need help?
I think there's 2 groups. There's probably half along the way, or a good chunk of them, if I'd guess. I haven't tracked it because it's hard to get the data to compare. But just by eyeballing, I'd say about half the time somebody else has a pro per has an attorney, and I'd say the other half kind of give up on their probate. I see that a lot. And so I think the two things I hear people call their missed opportunities, Chad. I know you try to push them on. So if I could just parrot what you say with maybe different words. Or the other thing is, nobody ever listens to the coach. So since I'm not the coach, maybe they'll listen to me. Is
Perfect.
one that it's not just the newest leads, because the old ones, they crashed and burned. They're often more interested in working with you than the brand new ones. The new ones are getting called by 50 people or 20 people, but the one that's a year old, they crashed and burned 2 years ago. You should keep calling them until you get through to them, and call them to meet them, and once you meet them, call them 9 days forever, because some of the ones I've dealt with have been older, and they, I still create my relationship by helping them through the process, by referring them to an attorney. Some attorneys will do a contingency. I refer them to an advanced inheritance company to get some money to pay for attorney's fees. Whatever they need, I'm going to try to help them, and then I get the chance to sell their real estate. So I would just say, don't worry about just the newest leads or being the first one. That's a piece of the business. But I would also say, call the rest until they hire you. And the second thing, if I could just get on my soapbox for a second and repeat what you said about the scripts. I get asked that all the time too about a script, and I would say it's way more important to learn the come from than it is the scripts. Because if you're a human being, you're talking to someone about a problem, it's natural to ask the right questions. If you're a salesman looking for a commission check, you're never going to master the script.
Right.
Well
and I
said.
did not pay Bill to say these things.
Bill, we have 6 more in the queue, but I suspect that if you're willing to do it, you would be a great interview or case study with Chad sometime. I'm sure Chad's probably mentioned it to you, but would you be willing to do that?
Thank you guys. I owe you guys a lot. I'm glad to help anybody I can. I really feel sincerely. So yeah, and I have nothing to sell. I'm not selling anything else. I'd be glad to help you.
Thank you so much for participating. We really appreciate you, and we will do that, my friend. Thank you. All right, the other Bill never came back, but next up is phone number ending in 9099. You're up next.
Hi there, Dennis from Boise, Idaho. How you doing?
Great, Dennis.
Hey there. So first-time caller. I'm actually, I'll be quick, but it was actually funny because the guy before kind of helped me answer my question. But and is basically about those year-old leads. So let's say, I haven't done this for a while. I started last year, I want to say about a year ago. I paid for the leads for a few months. What ended up happening is just got busy with other stuff, stopped following up with them, stopped sending letters. And basically my question is, there hasn't been any contact for, I don't know, almost a year, maybe 9 months. I'm not sure. But I know that the probate process is really, really long. But, that initial just, you kept on following up with them. You had direct mail and so on. It's just like, how do you get back in there? What do you guys recommend, or what's that conversation like? Because I don't want to sound, like I don't know what's going on again,
So you've been on these calls before. You probably know I like to answer questions with stories. We had in 2014, I believe it was pretty early in our existence. We had a subscriber sign up in Boise, and we hadn't gathered that county. We didn't have that month's leads, but we had historical leads, and I don't remember, I think they were 5-6 months old. So she bought 3 historical lists and then ordered her new list. So over the 10 days that we were getting her new list, that we were activating a researcher, going to the courthouse, she comes to a mastermind call. I spent like 15-20 minutes with her on a call, just kind of getting her, saying do this, do this, do this. She took immediate action, came back to our Thursday mastermind call, and had listed five houses in Boise off of those old leads. And Jim, after she told the story, Jim said, "That's great, Tammy. Like, have you ever done that before?" She's like, "These are my first listings. I got licensed 17 days ago."
Wow.
She came back the next Thursday. She had nailed 2 more off the same list. So in 120 leads, old leads in your market, she was able to grab 7 listings in 7 days. And I think it was like $93,000 in gross commission. So the list is, you never know if there's 1% or 10% of them that have struggled through and have taken forever to get it done. But just like Bill said, those are oftentimes the most motivated people because they're not getting pressure from anyone else. They've put their head in the sand, and oftentimes a simple letter or a phone call from you can give them that emotional breakthrough where they go, okay, This needs to end today. The procrastination stops today. Call him and get this done. And that's where a lot of your come list me calls come from, are those older lists. So we see value in our call center and in working with, coaching people. I've seen tons and tons of deals come out of 12 to 24-month-old lists. So you're safe to go back as far as 24 months. The one thing I would say is get your mindset right, because the vast majority of them are going to be sold already. But realize you probably have 2 to 3% in there that haven't sold, that really need your help. And there's more that haven't sold, but they might not be ready to engage. But usually on an old campaign like that, you could expect 2 to 3%. So if you've got 1,000 old leads, what if there's 20 listings waiting in there for you? And it might take you a month. It might take you a month to dial multiple times to actually make the contact with all of them. But is it worth it? And in most cases it is. We had another gentleman in, it was near Allentown, Pennsylvania. I don't remember what county that is. But he signed up. He was running a big team, and they just kind of forgot that they had signed up. 14 months had gone by, and they had never sent a letter or made a phone call. We sent out one letter followed by a phone call, and he took 13 listings in a week. And that was on 14-month-old data. So absolutely, like dust off that old book and start calling at a minimum. I would recommend at least send one letter to warm it back up, and then follow your letter with multiple phone calls until you've spoken to each one of them. But I guarantee there's deals in there.
I think this is so important. I just want to echo that. I'm very careful. I'm down here in southern Florida. I'm very careful I don't actively sell anymore as a realtor. I don't have time, but I still enjoy buying and flipping properties. Not as much as I used to, but I at least a dozen times I have gone back, taken the 1 to 2 year old leads in my market. I have never failed to get between 1 and 3 deals out of it, good flips. And the kind of responses I get from people are anything from I was squabbling with my siblings, we fought it out and finally I got put in charge, to we just couldn't bring ourselves to go through mom and dad's stuff and now we're finally ready. But almost without exception, they tell me that a year ago they were getting 50 letters and, dozens of phone calls, and they all tell me, you're the only one, now that we're ready, you're the only one that's contacted us in a year. So, like Chad said, 95% of them are going to be sold, but the 5% that aren't, there was probably a reason it took so long. They very well may be ready now, and you really have zero competition. So I don't think there's a lead source out there that's seasoned as well as Probate Leads. Yeah, and we're not telling anybody ignore your leads for a year. Call them now, but don't be afraid to go back and call the old ones later. It's a gift that keeps on giving. So it's a great question. Thank you. I think it's really important.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Next up is phone number ending in 5221. You're up next. Are you there, John? Hello, hello?
Oh, sorry, it was on mute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how are you? I'm talking low because I'm in a Starbucks. For some reason, the power went out in my house today. So I have a few questions. So I just got my first batch of leads, waiting for the mail to hit, and then I'll actually start calling. So I'm prepping for my initial calls. Some of these, I've seen the answers somewhere in the volumes of stuff I've gone through of yours, but I just don't remember where to find them. So please, auto dialer, preferred auto dialer. There was one recommended that you guys liked, and I can't find what that was.
So the one we usually recommend is, the parent company is Voice Logic, and the product is called Voice Casting. And if you call them, just ask to speak directly to Steve Lendo. He's one of the founders, and he works directly with our folks. He'll help you set up your campaigns.
Now, Chad, I'm not, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. Are you asking about ringless voicemail or an auto dialer for you to make the calls?
I was asking about an auto dialer.
For you to make the calls, right?
Yes. So what did you just
Okay.
tell me about Ringless?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the one that I recommend as far as a dialer, in my opinion, the best value in the industry is salesdialers.com.
Okay.
And
One sec, Chad. Hold on, because I'm now that you put it out there, I want to get so the Ringless voicemail, Voice Logic, something called Voice Casting. Steve, what was the last name?
Lindo, Lindo.
Lindo. All right, I'll look into that. So there's an extra question I didn't have. Now, for the auto dialer, what was that?
So it used to be called salesdialers.com. They've recently rebranded. It's called Prospect Boss.
Prospect Boss, B-O-S-S?
B-O-S-S, so prospectboss.com. And
Okay.
this is, in my opinion, it has every feature it has features that most dialers don't. Like you can have up to a 4-line dialer, and it's the best value out there. And I know the gentleman that owns the company, and they're outstanding people over there. So that is, I mean, there's others at twice the price, but I think you'll be happy with that one.
All right, sweet. I will look that up. Next question. Where's my list? Oh, I didn't quite understand. Why was that gentleman 2 calls ago, I think, why is he going to the courthouse every day? What's the purpose of that?
Well, I encourage everybody, like in Probate Mastery, I encourage you to go meet your probate clerk, go experience your probate court, like so you understand what these people are going through. It kind of helps you with a more empathetic mindset.
I get that, but every day?
Bill just took that to a different level, and what he found in visiting the court is opportunity. So there's opportunities to network with attorneys. There's opportunities to meet cash buyers that are there for overbids. There's opportunities to meet the pro per or the unrepresented state administrators.
So it's a networking event for him.
Kind of. I think it's partly networking, partly partly prospecting. And he does a really good job. If you want, you can look up his stuff on LinkedIn. He captures and he shares a lot of it in our group too, All the Leads Mastermind. But if you look at Bill Gross on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see a lot of it. He documents a lot of those experiences. So it's been interesting to watch and really helpful for a lot of our folks.
Okay, Bill Gross, got it. The best days, I know you put that out. It was an MIT study or something. Best days and times. I can't find what you said on that.
Sure. So that was just so everybody's on the same page. MIT did a study of 86,000 real estate prospecting calls. What they found is you're about 160%. Your contact rates, you have about 160% better chance if you call but on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 to 10 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m.
Thursday, 8 to 10 block and 4 to 6 block. That makes sense. Right. So Monday everyone's getting to work. Friday they're leaving work. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, morning slot and an evening slot. Got it.
So,
all right. So
and that gives you 12 hours of prospecting time per week, which will support more. I mean, there's very few people that have enough probate leads to use up all that space if you're calling 12 hours a week, or 48 hours a month. So what I do, after reading that study back in 2013, I changed my calendar around where I only, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday became pure office days. And I only looked at properties and met with sellers on Fridays and Mondays. And what was fascinating about that is how much respect people had for my time. It created a lot more urgency and exclusivity in my business. And I could pack all of my property tours into, those Friday, Monday appointments, which made setting appointments easier for me. Because I'm like, listen, I've got one spot on Friday at 3 o'clock. Otherwise, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks before we can meet. And people would jump on that, and it's fascinating how much more respect for your time people have when you're that protective of your time. So And
Understood.
I had such a good result prospecting in the office during those times. It just stuck. Like it was a test. I was going to do it for 2 weeks, and it just stayed that way.
That makes good sense. All right, so now that was kind of like just questions about process. Now I actually got my first list yesterday, and the mail goes out. So if I understand, the procedure is I'm going to get one of the letters myself, and that's how I know the mail has hit, and that's how I know what day to start calling, correct?
Yes.
All right, so I've got a few days now to, I've got these leads, so I'm looking through them, and I got 75 this month. I'm going through them all. I said, hey, let me pull the decedent's name and run it against the property list in the county tax roll and see who has real estate. First of all, very fascinating to see who has what. Most have some kind of real estate, but here's the question. Quite a few, it's minority, but quite a few seem to have no real estate whatsoever, and their last known address is in, Ohio. So, but yet the probate is open in Florida, and there's no real estate in their name. So I'm thinking either it's in some entity that I can't figure out what it is, the real estate, or why else? Is it their bank accounts in the state or something? Why would someone have a probate open in the county when there's no obvious real estate?
Shouldn't you ask them, not us?
Well, I will.
Sorry, I'm being a bit facetious here because this is a teachable moment. A lot of people ask this question. And I get it. Like, we have a tendency to try to deduce, right? Because it's easier to try to deduce from a spreadsheet than pick up the phone and ask. But quite honestly, there's so many variables in these situations. You never know. And we're developing an augmentation product for your probate leads called Probate Plus. What's really fascinating. Yeah, so I'm not only looking at one county, I'm looking at MLS and GIS across 3,149 counties. What's fascinating is a lot of the returns, I'm finding people that own 24 properties. Part of them are in trust, part of them are in entities, some are in their personal name, some are in just their wife's name. And it's fascinating just how many assets are being overlooked by the people who are trying to deduce and scrubbing with logic versus scrubbing with their cell phone. And so I was being a bit of a smart ass, but honestly the best way to find out is pick up the phone and ask about the situation, like build rapport, then work your way into real estate. But to better answer your question, what you're seeing in that case is most likely ancillary probate. So the person lived in Ohio, that's probably where they owned their real estate. They own something in the state of Florida that's worth more than your small estate minimum, which I think is $100,000 in Florida. So it could have been a business. It could have been an RV that was titled in an entity name, or it could be something in trust. But something valuable was registered in Florida. Maybe they had a rental property, or they did seasonal rentals and had something there. But what's happening is the primary probate gets filed in Ohio, and whatever asset existed in Florida needs to be probated in that county in Florida, and that's known as ancillary probate. And you're in one of those states like Florida, Arizona, the vacation or snowbird markets. This is really common. You'll see a lot of that. And what's great about those is oftentimes they need help more than anyone. They don't have contacts there. Mom and dad moved down there 20 years ago, built this secondary life that they live 6 months a year. They're not really part of it. So they can handle themselves in Ohio. They probably have that dealt with, but they don't know where to start in Florida. And that's where you can be a really valuable resource to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of out-of-state personal representatives and such in the list. Most of them, the majority of them, seem to be out of state. All right, so that's it with my questions. One small anecdote, if you will. So I went through the 75 last night, and I was surprised by it. It struck me as, holy crap, all these people are dead. And next month there's going to be another list of people that are dead, and then their families, and it really was something I hadn't really pondered before. It's kind of humbling, it's kind of creepy, it's kind of I don't know what, but wow, it's kind of a big responsibility what we're doing.
Yep. And it's something, you know, I tell people all the time, like, put your flag in the sand in your market or someone else will. And between now and 2045, we're going to lose the baby boomer generation, 98% of it. And it's kind of dark statistics, but it's the truth. It's life. Death is part of it. And most of them do not have an estate plan. Most of them don't even have a will. They have 80% plus of their net worth is tied up in real estate and properties. And they, on average, that generation has $27,000 in liquidity. So that lack of liquidity and the lack of planning for their own end-of-life phase, even if that's a long-term care plan, not even a death plan, but the lack of ability, the lack of willingness to look at our own demise and our culture creates a massive amount of pressure on the families when something does happen, whether that's a heart attack, a stroke, a death. When people need to access their net worth, oftentimes they can't. They're stuck. And that's where we can step up and make one hell of a difference in retaining equity from one generation to the next. And when you look at, that's just in the real estate. I mean, when you look in business, like I've been looking at this from a business perspective, there are 12 million baby boomer business owners right now. There are only 32,000 businesses a year sell. So 9 out of 10 people who have built this generational wealth in the form of business revenue, that's just going to dissolve and be completely lost. So you can step up and help these families. I mean, you can help them with real estate and different things, but there's bigger opportunities. If you really want to step into this and make a huge difference in your community, step up and learn what you need to about business brokerage. Help them find a way to sell their business to the next generation, so their employees don't have to go find new jobs, and they continue that wealth through the family. So there's the community impact of this.
There's a referral opportunity at least that I hadn't even
Sure, yeah, you can
mind.
find a business. There's 3,000 business brokers in the country,
sure,
and they need leads as bad as we do. So there's tons and tons and tons of opportunity if you can approach this from a compassionate, empathetic state, and that's what Bill said that was so helpful for him, was really the mindset is 90% of it. So rather than looking at this as your next deal, look at it as like, over the next 20, 25 years, how big can my community impact be? And how many dollars is that worth to these families? These people they're part of the unfortunate truth that we all die. They're feeling that right now. But we could help them, reduce stress and cut the timelines down. But how big of an impact is it if you can retain $1 billion worth of generational wealth throughout your real estate career? How good of a life lived is that? How good is that going to look in the book that you write when you're 60? And that's what really drives me in this is there's an opportunity in the real estate space like we've never seen before, and very few people have caught on to it or are willing to change their mindset and change their approach in order to capitalize on it the way we do, by providing value first and then earning the revenue.
Great question.
When's that Prospect Plus going to be ready, by the way?
Well, I thought last week, but technology is interesting. Just when I think it's ready, something broke, and we're trying to figure out what that something is. Like, we've got it to a point, because we're giving you a lot of information. We're telling you what the property's worth, how many mortgages are against it, if it's been on MLS, like the sales history, a lot of different things. And what happened this time was everything was good. We moved it from one server to the next, and a bunch of stuff it's not populating the same as it was. So we're troubleshooting a very minor problem right now. I should be able to take it into beta testing this week or next week, and we hopefully can release it to you guys as early as the beginning of March.
Can we pre-order or no? We just got to wait? Because I'm going to do it. I'll sign up right, today if I know how.
Yeah, send me an email and I'll put you on the list. We have a wait list. Send it to jim@alltheleads.com. I'm keeping that list.
Okay, I will. I'll do that today.
All right.
All right.
Awesome
guys,
questions, man. Thank you for your participation. Next up is phone number ending in 0181. You're up next.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you.
How you doing? I'm Alex here in Chicago. Quick question. I had a gentleman that's, I guess he's the personal representative. He's incarcerated in Tennessee, and he reached out to me because he had, I guess he had a property here in Illinois, and then there's a second property that he was inquiring about that's, I guess, somehow in his name. And so when I spoke to him at the court, not at the court, but at the over the phone, with I guess one of the security guards or whatever the case is, he was just breaking down his situation. But my question was, if there's a property and you're trying to find out the full history of it, because I tried to do some research on the MLS, what resource do you use? What do you guys use to try to find the full history of a property? Because one of them, you know, I mean, he has, and it's definitely his, and he's figuring out if the personal or if the person he gave attorneys rights to is wanting to purchase it. The second one, he isn't sure just because some other people have passed in his family. But I guess I was just want to find out what resource you guys use to find the full history on the property.
Sure.
Well, sometimes your local GIS can be all that you really need. You know, it'll show you transfers. It'll show
When you
you
say local GIS, is that the MLS or is that something?
No, your county tax assessor's site.
Oh.
So GIS is the Geographical Information System. It's like usually the GIS is managed by your county tax assessor. So they have all that data, so they can tell you, you know, whenever the last transfer was, what it's currently assessed at, if there's any liens against it, code violations. It's a good place to get all that. You know, big data companies obviously buy those files and present it in different ways. The most comprehensive tool that I'm aware of and the one that I use myself is called PropStream. And it's about $100 a month, but you can export up to 10,000 lines of data for that $100. So if you're you know, running marketing lists, and it may not be worth $100 to research one property, but if you're looking for a tool to use every day going forward, it's hard to beat that one. If you have a realtor on your team, like some MLSs now include Remine, which is a similar tool. It's just they don't have as good of a data set. But you could just call some local realtors and say, hey, I need to take a deep dive on this. I don't really want to pay for a title search.
realtor.
Oh, I was thinking you hadn't gotten your license yet. Okay.
No, I have my license.
So you guys may have RPR is almost certainly built into your MLS, Realtor Property Resource, and it does an okay job at giving you a property report. Remine or PropStream are going to give you more comprehensive data. There's just more data in that set. So I would look at those.
I would second
And
PropStream. PropStream is actually very similar to what they're using. A lot of the banks are using now instead of appraisers. They're doing a market evaluation, and is it the same source or a very similar source, right, Chad?
Well, that's just one little piece of it, but yeah. So the AVM that PropStream uses is the same one that banks license for their automated appraisals.
Right.
And
Tremendous amount of information.
The main property, if he, because he gave somebody, I guess he gave a woman he gave her attorney, I forget the term, but attorney, you know, like when you give somebody a power of attorney is what I'm trying to say. He gave her power of attorney, and basically she's going to be looking to buy the property. So pretty much with that instance, there's nothing I could play a role in, essentially, right? Just because it would be probably just be.
I mean, there's an opportunity for you to represent her if she, you know, I mean, a lot of people, it's even though she's the buyer, who's going to write the contract? So there could be an opportunity for you to help her in a limited agency capacity, or as a full-blown buyer's agent. You know, if you explain to her that she needs to know certain things about how to fill out the contract and how to protect herself during the due diligence process, like who do you use for inspections? You know, how do you, like, all the things that it takes for a transaction to close. She may see enough value in she may see enough ignorance in herself and enough value in your service to be willing to pay you a commission on that, even though she kind of put the deal together. And even if that's a limited agency agreement, you know, maybe you can make $1,000 for just filling out the paperwork and doing the transaction management for her.
Gotcha. So you would agree just on some, it wouldn't be like a full-fledged commission, but you would agree on like some smaller commission just to help her out.
I would give her 2 options and let her choose. So I would say there's a couple ways that I can help you. 3 actually. 1, I can do nothing, and you can go through this and just know that all the risk and all the liability is yours and yours only. 2, I can help you in a limited agency capacity, and we can define the parts that you're intimidated by or need help with or don't understand, and I'll take on that responsibility and therefore that risk and liability. Or I can just do it all for you end to end, and you don't have to lift a finger. I'll walk you through every single step of the way and make sure you're protected. Which of those sounds best to you? And just let her make a choice.
Gotcha. And so if she's buying it from an estate, essentially, there's still a process. You know what I mean? Like, because I was assuming they could just like quick claim it over to her, like the property.
Well, they can, but you have to close the chain of title. So, for example, when they run the title, it's going to be in John Doe's name. John Doe is deceased. Where is the death certificate? Has probate been filed? Is probate open or closed? So someone has to go, and with the personal representative being in prison, those documents probably aren't readily accessible. So it's very likely if she writes the contract and puts it in escrow, it's going to go sideways because of the circumstances. And then a lot of times the title companies, you know, they're not going to push. They've got file after file after file coming at them. So if it's not in the right title company, it'll sit there in deal purgatory for who knows how long. And, you know, so having you to drive the process could be the difference between her getting that house in a month and her getting that house in a year when Junior gets out of prison.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We may run a little bit over, but I think we got time for one more. Possibly last up this week is phone number ending in 4760.
Yes, hi, this is George. How are you guys doing? I'm
doing good, George.
Texas, Austin,
yes, sir.
Texas. I'm new on this call, so I guess I have a quick question for you in regards to what do you call it? When you go to a lead, it's a lead question. The attorney information is there, but there's no phone number, so I'm able to find the phone number. Do you think that it's easier to get in touch with the attorney if the phone number is there before you talk to the personal representative, or usually there's no number for the attorney, just the personal representative?
We usually always give you a phone number for the attorney. If you're noticing that none of your attorneys have numbers, send an email to support@alltheleads and let us know, because that's really unusual. We pretty much get 100% coverage on attorney phone numbers. But to answer your question, you should absolutely reach out to the personal representative first.
Okay, well, the reason I asked that question because, you know, I was looking at it. I'm new again. This is my first time on this call, and I'm new with the ATL. So I was looking at the sample leads, and there was no attorney's phone number. I was kind of curious about it.
Yeah, we'll almost always give you that number. The thing about calling attorneys is, you know, they have receptionists or paralegals or whoever is the front-end gatekeeper. Their job is they're the guardian of billable hours, right? So if my time's worth $250 an hour, I don't need to be taking calls until I know only I can deal with it as the attorney. So what you'll find is it takes quite a bit of time and a pretty polished skill set to get through the gatekeeper and have good conversation with the attorneys. So what we recommend, what you'll have the best result with, is get your letters out and follow those with phone calls to the personal representatives. That's one branch of your campaign. That's the marketing branch. The other branch of your campaign is building a referral network. And I don't mean on the phone. I mean face-to-face visits with estate planning attorneys, probate attorneys, nursing home employees, social workers, senior moving companies, estate sale companies.
Correct.
Anyone having contact with these families in the end-of-life planning phase or when someone has already passed away, having them understand that you have a business right here in the community that can help with anything and everything is by far the best way to get that business. And just like Bill was saying, you know, if like he's been hanging out in the courthouse, well, now the probate attorneys are starting to recognize him and say, well, what is it that you do? They're genuinely curious because nobody's doing this. Like, it's easy to crack in when you're providing real value to the attorneys. And we're short on time today, but if you go to alltheleads.com, the homepage, in the top right,
yes.
hit that global search bar, put in attorney or attorneys, and you'll find hours of conversation about how we actually teach you to really get in there and make a big difference. And the one thing I'll point you to is if you search in that same search bar, search F-R-A-K-E-R, Fraker. That is, John Fraker was generous enough to give us an hour of his time and he let us see behind the curtain of that industry and basically validated everything we teach. It doesn't matter what market you're in, it works. When you show up and provide real value and make eye contact, these attorneys take you very seriously. So don't spend too much time burning up the phones with attorneys. You're much better off to burn up gas when you're trying to build your attorney network, but get your marketing out and try to talk to the PRs first.
Sure. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate your help on this.
Sure.
Awesome call, guys. I want to, as I always do, I always end these calls the same way, but this was a particularly inspirational call. We have people that are really doing the right thing for the right reason, and they're getting great results. And I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today, particularly thank the 7 or 8 people that actively participated. And I want to challenge each of you, take one thought, one idea, one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we will talk to you same time next Thursday.